Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the ever-changing world of technology? Tech It Out can help make some sense of it all. Breaking down geek speak into street speak, technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman covers consumer technology each week for every listener. Mark tackles the latest news, reviews, and how-tos to help you understand what's hot, what's not, and why.
Hey everyone, welcome to Tech It Out, powered by Visa, which I'll tell you more about shortly. This is a weekly program that doesn't just celebrate technology, but my goal is to help demystify it as well. Or, as the announcer said, I try to break down geek speak into street speak. Truthfully, I don't always celebrate technology either, as sometimes I try to help arm you against those who abuse tech, like one of the topics today, tax scams that you need to know about. It is tax season, so McAfee will join me a little bit later on in the program to tell us what their research has uncovered and how you can fight back. If you haven't seen it already, no doubt in March and April, you're going to look at text messages and emails that may look legit, saying that they're with the IRS or H&R Block or TurboTax, QuickTax, and it's going to say you got to urgently confirm this information or you're going to be in trouble. Sometimes there's phone calls, all phony, and many will fall for it. And so we're going to chat with McAfee's head of threat research, Abhishek Karnik, for this eye-opening data, or since this is radio or a podcast, let's say ear-opening data. But before that, on this 304th episode of Tech It Out, if you're keeping track, I've just returned from Barcelona, where I attended Mobile World Congress, an annual tech event, a convention that has about 100,000 attendees, with a focus on mobility and connectivity for the most part. And I received nice comments from listeners last week from the videos that I posted on social media. I did some stand-ups from the showroom floor, and I recorded some interviews as well to run today and next week. The first one today, in fact, is going to be with AT&T about using your smartphone to make satellite calls, even video calls, when the cell network isn't available. Maybe you're off the grid, you're camping, you're in a national park, you're not getting good reception. AT&T is partnering with a company called AST Space Mobile. And so I sat down with AT&T, yes, in Spain, to learn all about this coming soon. Also recorded at MWC last week, we'll have Matt Swider on the show today. Matt is a well-known tech personality, and he runs a popular Substack, which is like a website and a newsletter in one. It's called The Shortcut. And he's going to join me to talk about a company called HONOR and the cool AI innovations that they showed at Mobile World Congress. And so a packed Tech It Out to get to this hour. Oh, and speaking of this show, Tech It Out, whether you're tuning in on your local talk radio station or as a podcast, this program was awarded one of the best gadget podcasts in the world. I was very happy to learn that last week. I'm at number 48 out of 100, which is all kinds of awesome. The organizers are called Million Podcasts, and I was thrilled to find out I made the cut. Top 50, in fact, which is no easy feat given the many competitors out there and so many great podcasts that I'm just flattered to be considered up there. That's so great. I was so thrilled at the acknowledgement. All right, enough about me. So let's officially kick off a brand new Tech It Out with our first interview recorded on the show floor at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. Here we go. You might have heard a lot of buzz lately about satellites, using them for communication through your smartphone, perhaps when you're off the grid and not near any cell towers, which could be a literal lifesaver during an emergency. Well, the good news is you no longer are limited to a specific smartphone and text-only messages, as we're going to now hear about with AT&T's John Wojewoda. He's head of global roaming and satellite at the company. Thanks for your time today, John, and it's great to chat with you here at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. Nice to meet you.
It's great to meet you too. Be excited to be here.
Before we talk about what's new, please bring us up to speed about satellite-based communication. What are we essentially talking about here?
So there's a lot of satellite-based solutions out there, right? There's different technologies. There's a broadband satellite technology that you see from Starlink and others, right, that can provide internet access to homes and businesses. What we're really talking about today is we're bringing satellite connectivity to your smartphone, right? It's a way to create connectivity where you may have white spots today.
All right, and that refers to when you don't have proximity to a cell tower. You may be, I don't know, in the desert, your car breaks down between LA and Las Vegas, or you're camping and you get lost in the wilderness. So this is primarily for emergency purposes.
It goes beyond emergencies. AT&T's got the best terrestrial coverage in the United States, but there's still places that we don't cover because of just, economically we can't build cell sites or we can't get access for regulatory reasons at national parks. And so there's always places where your phone doesn't work. We try to minimize that, but you're never going to fully close that from a terrestrial network. And so what satellites do is it allows you to close all of those holes by using a broad satellite communication. Our vision is you will be able to support voice, data, and messaging over satellite in the future. It will not have the same experience as a terrestrial network, but you will be able to support all the services you're used to using.
And that's certainly above and beyond what you're able to do today. So there were satellite phones that were huge and expensive, and they did let you make a call if you needed to. So ideal for hikers and what have you. Over the last couple of years, companies like Apple, followed by Samsung, announced that with certain devices, you can use satellite-based communication. You have to hold your phone up and point it toward a satellite, and you can send a message, again, mostly for emergency services, for first responders, maybe sharing your location, something happened, and that was about it. And then comes AT&T with your partnership with a company called AST Space Mobile, where you've already hinted at this. You're not just limited to text-based communication. In the future, you'll also be able to make phone calls and video calls.
Yeah, that's right. Like you said, there was satellite phones for a long time, right? And those were proprietary systems that worked specifically for those satellites. What we're doing with AST Space Mobile is we're bringing the same technology you have in your smartphone and that we use on our ground-based network, and we're using the same technologies in the same spectrum, but we're able to do it from space. And so all of a sudden it becomes compatible with all existing phones. You don't need a modified phone or a new phone with special capabilities.
So that sounds like a second differentiator, that you don't need the highest-end iPhone or the latest Samsung device in order to do this. So if I have a 10-year-old Moto Android phone, so long as I'm an AT&T customer, I could take advantage of this if I needed to in a pinch?
At some point in the future, yes, that would be the case.
Yeah, very cool. From an experience standpoint, I know there was a recent milestone I want to ask you about. Do you hold your phone up and have to perform this sort of like, I don't know if you've seen, how you do it with iPhone and Samsung. Is that similar?
No, the user experience should be much simpler, right? The phone will, if it finds itself in an area of not coverage and the satellite is available, it would seamlessly attach to that satellite, and then you would send a message just like you do today. Yeah. You would not have to go through a pointing exercise.
Yeah, actually, I should mention, I met someone from AST Space Mobile here at the AT&T booth last night at the cocktail hour, and she mentioned that it should be as seamless as when you walk in your home from outside, how your phone joins Wi-Fi, and you may be able to make calls over Wi-Fi if you've enabled that feature, very popular for better clarity and more reliability. And it should be the same down the road when you're connected to satellites. So the user may be none the wiser. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. It would all be handled transparently by the phone. We use multiple networks today, and the phone automatically adjusts to using the most ideal one in the scenario. We're always going to try to keep you on the AT&T terrestrial network because that would be your best performance. But if it's not available, it will seamlessly transition to the satellite.
We are chatting with John Wojewoda. He is head of global roaming and satellite at AT&T. As you can hear, based on some ambient noise, we're at Mobile World Congress, MWC, in Barcelona. Though it's not so bad. We're in a nice, cozy room here, but you can probably hear some murmuring around me. But it's a pleasure to have John here to talk about this new partnership with AST Space Mobile. I know another carrier also has a partnership with them as well, but AT&T celebrated a milestone with this partner of yours just last month. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, sure. We've been working with AST for over 8 years, and back in September, they launched their first 5 commercial satellites. We've worked with them on test satellites in the past, but these will be the first 5 that are actually going to be providing commercial service. Last month, we actually did a video call over those commercial satellites. That follows on a number of first milestones that we've had with AST. We had done some video calls over their previous test satellites as well as voice calls, and we continue to make milestones as we move forward to commercial launch.
All right, so AT&T and AST Space Mobile was able to demonstrate just a few weeks ago a live video call, like a FaceTime or a Zoom chat over the satellite.
Video call.
Yeah, WhatsApp, sorry. Okay. And you said that it may not be the exact same experience, at least today, on what you would expect over, 5G, AT&T or Wi-Fi. Is it slower, choppier? I mean, just realistically, it probably won't have the same performance.
For sure, at least initially, it's not going to have the same speeds that you're used to in an LTE or 5G network. Over time, we do expect the speeds to increase. One of the reasons we chose AST Space Mobile as our partner is we believe they have a technology that it gives them an advantage at being able to support higher speed service. And And so over time, you will be able to support meaningful data speeds, support a number of the services you're used to using.
Fair. And that's one of the criticisms of competing carriers' partnership with Starlink. So that's good to see where AT&T is going there. And then finally, John, as we wrap up, is there a rough timeline? I know this is just proof of concept at this point, but are we going to see it, do you think, and I'm not going to hold you to it, 2025, 2026, and is there going to be a cost, or like what Apple and Samsung are doing is free for now kind of thing?
We haven't made public what our timelines are yet. It will be coming soon. We're still working through what our pricing strategy will be.
But again, the two differentiators between what Apple and Samsung are doing and what AT&T and AST Space Mobile are doing is that you're not limited to just text messaging. You can do voice and video as well. Can you do data transfer as well? Okay, awesome. And you're not limited to a high-end, the newest devices on the market. It will be backward compatible, which is awesome. Is there a website where we can learn more?
Yeah, you can go to att.com and /news, and we'll be posting regular updates there.
Okay, att.com/news. John Wojewoda has been our guest. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a great rest of your Mobile World Congress.
Thank you. Good luck with the rest of the show.
Again, you can check out that video online of that WhatsApp video call. All right, when we return on Tech It Out, we're going to catch up with the Shortcut's Matt Swider, also recorded at Mobile World Congress, to hear all about the huge Chinese tech company HONOR and the announcements that they had at MWC, including some really cool AI innovations in their products. And we'll chat with McAfee a little bit later in the program about tax scams. Stick with us, more Tech It Out coming right up after this short break.
Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want. Find the Tech It Out podcast at iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. We cover cybersecurity a lot on this program and how you can best protect yourself in the digital age, even if you're not super tech savvy. One part of the solution is securely shopping online. And so I'm thrilled about my partnership with Visa on Tech It Out, as they've made some significant investments in fraud prevention over the past 5 years, as much as $10 billion. Yes, that's billion with a B, to support Visa's brand promise to protect the financial information of individuals and businesses. Zero liability means peace of mind when you shop online using your Visa card. There can be no half measures when it comes to cybersecurity, which is why the company takes an aggressive and multi-layered approach to combating the rising threat of malicious software and other threats by well-funded and global criminal enterprises. Read more about Visa and how securing the world's payments is priority one at visa.com/security. That's visa.com/security. All right, so I'm here at Mobile World Congress 25, MWC. I am sitting down with Matt Swider, founder and editor-in-chief of The Shortcut, a popular Substack. We're going to chat about HONOR, a huge company that had a big press conference last night, unveiled a bunch of new technologies. A lot of it is anchored on AI, but before we get to all that, first of all, Matt, it's good to hang out with you this week. How's your show so far?
It's been pretty good. It's fun to be in Barcelona. It's my 10th anniversary of coming to Mobile World Congress, and it's like a CES but focused on phones.
Yeah, you're a veteran. Tell us a bit about The Shortcut and some of your other work as well.
Yeah, it's a Substack, meaning a website/newsletter, and I developed that over the course of the last 3 years, and we have an entire team dedicated to, giving you tech advice and also deals and pointing out where not to overpay for your gadgets.
And you cover a lot of the smartphone space. I know you recently had a review of the iPhone 16e, and you cover Android quite a bit, which is where the HONOR devices fall into. So for those who aren't familiar with HONOR, because I don't think their devices are freely available in North America, tell us a bit about the company, and then let's chat about what their big news was here from the show.
Yeah, it's a Chinese phone company that kind of has made waves over the last 5 to 7 years, and they are making the phones and watches and tablets that you wish you could get in the U.S. sometimes. They have really sleek designs, and they undercut a lot of the prices of, say, Apple and Samsung. So sometimes we look at this company with envy.
I have colleagues and friends who review phones, and they swear by HONOR. They say from a photography standpoint, everything else is pale in comparison. For example, is it the Magic 7 Pro? Is their latest sort of top tier or flagship device?
Yeah, they have way better cameras than most people would expect, especially over the course of the last half decade. decade where they've just gotten better and better and better at it. And it feels like, some U.S. companies have been a little stagnant on upgrading their processors or like the camera. They have really gone all in on going with new camera technology and also now AI.
That's a good segue. Let's chat about AI. That seems to be what Honor is really rallying behind here at the show. And just for our listeners, apologies for some ambient noise. We are sitting in a conference center. You may hear applause or hear people murmuring around us. I think personally that adds to the energy of our chat. So Matt Swider is who I'm chatting with about Honor. You said that AI was a big priority for them. How so?
Yeah, AI is definitely at the forefront of what everybody's talking about, at least. So Honor is going to invest $10 billion over the next 5 years. And
wow.
What that's really meant for is to rival Apple Intelligence, Google Gemini, and Microsoft's Copilot, all the assistants out there that are becoming full-fledged AIs with LLM, which is large language models. Basically, a better version of Siri and Alexa and stuff like that than we've experienced previously.
Can you give us some examples of some of the things you're able to do with Honor AI? And I think they announced some partners as well, like Qualcomm and Google. So Qualcomm on the hardware side, they often provide the processor for mobile devices and increasingly laptops as well. And then Google, obviously, they're the folks behind the Android platform, as well as Google Gemini, which you've already hinted at. Yeah. But what's Honor AI all about?
Yeah, you can think of it as we're all familiar with OpenAI's ChatGPT. It's equivalent to that, or at least that's what they're developing. And they want to be able to, have it in their entire ecosystem. Really, what it looks like they're building is all their devices, their watches, their tablets, their earbuds, their laptops. They're trying to make it so that it all has this cohesive ecosystem, so that assistant that is out there, very, very smart compared to what's out there currently, is going to be cohesive and interacts with all your devices. So that's really the game plan they're going for. So just like your iPhone could do writing tools now, you'll have those types of tools, but it'll be within Honor's ecosystem.
Okay, so with Honor AI, which will power their next generation of smartphones, or in fact, it'll be supported by existing devices like the Magic 7 Pro, but also as they unveiled at their conference last night, Matt, their next generation of earbuds, smartwatch, tablet, and laptops. So this is this cohesive ecosystem, as you've called it, that will help things like writing an email that you just suggested, or writing better notes, or it can also help clean up images. You've got an unwanted subject in your photo, you can clean that up.
Yeah, photo bombers beware. That is going to be the fix that I think consumers really love the most. Stuff like that will just be easier, so you don't have to open up an app like Photoshop to kind of get in there to try to erase that person. You can do it automatically. Stuff like that is going to be what it helps out. And also just fine adjustments like the Honor Earbuds Open that they just announced.
Real-time language translation using earbuds. Presumably, you're going to need an Honor smartphone nearby, but the idea is that you can wear earbuds and listen to somebody that is speaking in their mother tongue, and it's translated back, in our case, to English for us, and back again. And then they even showed a shared version of that where you can give a friend an earbud and you can both share that translation.
Yeah, the real-world usage of that version of AI is really exciting because, there are kids today who are probably going to grow up with this technology and not know the language barrier that we all experience. That's going to be a thing of the past. Yeah, kind of like call waiting from, back in our day. They're going to be able to, communicate when they go abroad, and that's really exciting.
More with Matt Swider from The Shortcut when we return on Tech It Out.
Want to follow Mark? Google him. Mark with a C and Saltzman with a Z. Breaking down geek speak into street speak. This is Tech It Out. Tech It Out with technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Tech It Out. Let's play the second half of my interview with Matt Swider, where I sat down with him in Spain at Mobile World Congress last week at the big convention. So let me just cue that up and continue playing the interview. We're chatting with Matt Swider. He is the founder and editor-in-chief of The Shortcut, which is a popular Substack, which you can subscribe to at theshortcut.com. We're talking about Honor's big announcements here at MWC, Mobile World Congress 25. We're sitting here in Barcelona in the middle of the trade show to chat about the big announcements from their event. Now, I know they didn't announce a new smartphone. They teased what's coming, but let's talk a bit more about the agent side of it, as we call it. So agents in the AI world is when you type in a prompt prompt of something that you need, and it's contextual. Can you maybe elaborate or give us an example or two of what you can do?
Sure. So AI agents are basically the next frontier of artificial intelligence. And what it's meant to do is actually complete tasks for you. So there are going to be different AI agents from a whole host of companies. So like, give an example, Uber. You'll be able to not only ask about a ride and the distance it'll take, but actually execute on getting that ride to what your preference is going to be. So if you like to take a certain type of car, maybe it'll automatically know that based on your past preferences. And that's what AI agents should be able to do, is not just spit back information to you, but actually execute on tasks so you don't have to spend time in menus on phones. It kind of goes through it for you.
Right. So it's a time saver. And they showed us last night on stage. We've seen this with some other AI agents from other companies where you want to find a restaurant near you. It'll automatically parse through all of that massive amounts of data online so you can find only the highest rated reviews of nearby restaurants. Again, contextual. It's not going to give you a review of a sushi restaurant in, I don't know, Honolulu when you live in Stanford, Connecticut, for example. That's a weird example, but you get the idea. Even book a table for you, right? It's like conversational.
Yeah, it's conversational, and it's intended to be complex. So you don't have to say, hey, give me a burger restaurant in San Jose, for example. I was there recently. I could ask an AI agent, give me a burger restaurant in San Jose that allows for pets, and I can just say, make it a vegan one, right?
What's another AI agent example that you would be able to pull off on these devices? Like, for example, can you leverage the camera to recognize something?
Every company is trying to come out with visual intelligence with their AI, and basically, go-to example that they love is opening up your fridge, taking a picture, and all of a sudden, based on the ingredients that are in your refrigerator, they're suggesting what to make, what dish to prepare, so that you don't have to kind of second guess and go to a website. It's like, oh, okay, here's some, based on their culinary expertise, dishes that you could prep within, a limited amount of time. Like, you can specify, and it just takes the workload out of that with just the click of your camera.
You can also generate images. Like, if you have a website, instead of having to pay through the nose, if you can't afford to, for a photographer to come out and shoot a couple having dinner on a beach with a sunset, you can ask the AI agent to do that for you too.
Yeah, it's pretty quick as well. It's like these kind of generative AI images, and now we're seeing a lot of video out there. It's getting better and better, and with fewer errors. Like, sometimes there's too many fingers on some of these subjects, but they're ironing those things out. Yeah, we actually use it on the site sometimes when we don't have like an illustration for a rumored product that doesn't exist. So it actually has practical use.
Yeah, awesome. So as we wrap up, Matt, let's hear the product announcements from HONOR. I know it's all tied to the HONOR AI ecosystem.
Yeah, the one we like the most at the Shortcut, my colleague Max Bondano loves the HONOR Earbuds Open. And the Earbuds Open are unique. Not only do they do that translation stuff, the Earbuds Open is kind of a product category that's kind of new. It's like speakers hanging off your ears. They're not quite in your ears, so if you don't like that feeling, you still get good noise isolation, but you can hear the outside world as well. Where that's really useful is for bikers. So if you're on a bike, you're technically not legally able to have earbuds in your ears. So it lets you pay attention to traffic. Also, runners really like that product category.
Yeah, I would think any pedestrian, it's a safety feature for sure. Huge battery life, lots of different colors, and their watch, speaking of battery life, up to 15 days for that smartwatch.
Yeah, the Watch 5 Ultra promises 15 days of battery life, and it's running Wear OS, but it has what we've been seeing recently, this dual chip design, so that, Wear OS is a little taxing. When it needs to function and, be really quick and zippy, that's Wear OS. But then it falls back on its other chipset and just runs a different operating system for the ability to be more efficient. So that's really helpful.
And there was a new tablet unveiled too.
Yeah, the HONOR Pad 9, which is an 11.5-inch rival to the iPad. So it's about 250 euros. So that is a great price. I wish it came stateside because, I want an iPad rival to be out there and kind of, make some competition for the U.S.
Yeah, apparently it's thinner than the iPad, yet has a bigger battery, which is nice. No trade-offs.
Right, and that price that's a killer price. So, that is going to be a great device for people who can't afford the iPad but want even better specs.
So I know you can buy HONOR products on this side of the pond, or if in the hopes that it's going to come through carriers and all that. The best website to learn more, Matt, about the HONOR press conference, which you covered, and a lot of your other coverage here at MWC, it's simply theshortcut.com.
Yeah, everybody wants to take the shortcut in life, and we provide all that information. And you can follow me at Matt Swider. So hey, message me anytime because I love giving out tech advice.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matt. You're so good at it. Really appreciate your time today. Have a great show.
Thanks, Mark.
Nice guy. Hey, don't forget, on this program, we're also going to catch up with McAfee. That'll be in the next block or two, and it'll be about tax time. I mean, if it wasn't annoying enough that we have to scramble to get our taxes done and all that, how about scammers looking to defraud you by making you think they're from the IRS or from your bank or a tax software company like Intuit or like H&R Block or whatever? Many people are falling for scams this time of the year tied to taxes because it might be in the back of your mind, so you're more likely to fall for it. We're going to get some useful tips from McAfee on what to look for and how to fight back. They also had a survey that revealed some really interesting data tied to scams. Who's getting scammed? What age group? How much are they losing? How are those tax scams hitting you? Is it text, email, phone calls, or direct message over social media and all that? So we're going to get to McAfee in a couple of minutes from now. I just wanted to give a shout out to SanDisk. They're a great partner of mine on this program. They've got a new line of solid state drives and micro SD cards and USB drives, all for creators. It's their creator series. So it's not just about backing up your important information in case something happens to your device, your phone, your tablet, your laptop, your desktop, but also working off of that drive. When you're dealing with flash storage, it's faster, lighter, smaller, less prone to damage because there's no moving parts. Capacity is really getting up there, which is great. So you can work off of that drive with faster read and write speeds, more energy efficient, so it'll sip rather than gulp power from your laptop or what have you. So SanDisk.com has more, and check out their creator series for sure. All right, more Tech It Out coming right up after this short break.
Breaking down geek speak into street speak. Tech It Out, hosted by Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Tech It Out. It's tax time. The only thing more stressful than getting your stuff ready for the government is knowing there are scammers looking to exploit this time of year to defraud you. Well, McAfee has just published fresh data about tax scams that you should know about. And so here to tell us more and how to protect yourself, we're joined by Abhishek Karnik, head of threat research at McAfee. Thanks for your time, Abhishek. Good to have you on the program.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you for having me.
Before we talk about this tax scam research that was just published on Thursday, please tell us a bit about McAfee as an online protection company.
Yeah, McAfee is a consumer-focused company, where we believe our customers should be empowered to be more confident online. And we do so by making their experience safer and more enjoyable. And in order to do so, we deliver comprehensive protection through our award-winning software, which includes features like scam detection, privacy and identity protection, and protection for a few other things like antivirus, mobile, web protection, amongst other things.
You also can do deepfake detection now that AI is being used or abused by cyber criminals. And I also like that you put an emphasis on education, not just relying on software to do all the heavy lifting, but you also like to explain to your users through shows like this on how to best protect yourself. All right, so let's now talk about your research tied to tax time. What did you set out to find?
Tax season is a prime time for scammers to cash in, right? People are giving away their sensitive information, making payments online. So cyber criminals are utilizing this time of the year to generate fake emails, text messages, and even in some cases, audio sort of recordings, which they send to you purporting or mimicking legitimate tax communication companies or even government agencies. We're seeing that some of these scams are becoming more AI-driven, like you said earlier. There's a lot of tools available to sort of make these scams more believable. Social engineering is becoming a real complicated thing with these tools. And the end goal, of course, is to create a sense of urgency and panic. And that makes a perfect recipe to get the scammers to get what they want, which is some sort of personal information or payments. So what we've seen, at least in the last few weeks, is almost a 17% increase in all the URLs that we block generally. 17% of just those URLs have been tax theme related. So anything which, is a fake URL saying irs.gov.tax-helping.com, which is not really an IRS website, but is potentially a phishing link. A lot of these, almost 76% of all tax-related scams are coming through mobile and therefore are targeting mobile consumers. So, given that mid-March to April is arguably the peak season for filing, we're seeing a lot of these scams starting to pick up. And just historically speaking, we see that about 1 in 4 Americans, which is about 23%, have lost money or know somebody who've lost money to such scams. And a large percentage of these end up being either young adults who are online or even older ones who probably lose thousands of dollars. Anybody who's in the 65 to 74 age group we've seen can suffer financial losses for more than $1,000, for instance. So it's pretty prevalent at this time of the year. It's getting even worse as we head up to that tax deadline date.
Sure. Yeah. And I know it's not unusual for cyber criminals to take advantage of certain times of the year. Romance scams around Valentine's Day, tax scams in March and April, holiday related scams closer to November and December, where that is top of mind. So you're that much more likely to fall for it because you're expecting this kind of communication, or you are already engaged in that kind of communication with an organization. So really good to point that out. And did you say nearly 1 in 4 people said that they or someone they know has lost money to a tax scam? That's a high percentage.
Yeah, that is a high percentage. When we look at our surveys, this is what we heard from Americans at least.
And you touched on the different demographics. Let's start with baby boomers. I think that aging adults, there is this perception that they're the most victimized group when it comes to scams. Maybe they're not as tech savvy, maybe they're more trusting, but this isn't necessarily the case when it comes to tax scams, right?
Yeah, it's interesting when it comes to tax scams because, if you think about it, the baby boomers are probably also the people who go into the H&R block or into the offices or have somebody physically present to do their taxes for them, right? On the other hand, the younger ones are more on their devices looking for those deals and probably are enticed into clicking the wrong link and therefore probably are more susceptible to these scams. So, I see that. On the other hand, I would also think that the youngsters, their tax filings are a little lower. And they don't have a lot of tax work to be done. And the more complicated ones are being done by professionals, which is also for the elderly, so to say.
Okay, that sounds like a fair reason why older folks may not be hit as hard as younger ones, is that they're more reliant on traditional accounting services, bookkeeping services, opposed to using websites and apps. And also, as you said, they often have a bit more of a complicated setup, maybe with, 401k and, retirement funds and investments. And it may be a bit more complicated than someone just starting out in the workforce or even in their 30s and 40s.
Absolutely.
That's really interesting. Would you then say, Abhishek, that there is a connection between those who fall for tax scams and those who use online or digital services to file their taxes? That's the correlation?
I would think that is definitely one of the cases because a lot of the scams start with links on mobile text messaging, for instance. A lot of them are phishing websites, which, for example, ID.me, which is the IRS website. You're seeing many phishing scams starting off right now. So a lot of fake imposter websites, also fake software. So some sort of a password stealer or information stealer who's posing to be TurboTax, right? And so you go and download it because you think you got a great deal and it ends up being malware, right? So those are typically the ones that you run into, at least while you're online. In person, you could come across somebody who is claiming to be a tax professional, and then scam you. But in-person scams are typically not as prevalent, I would say.
Yeah, agreed. We don't hear about in-person scams much anymore. More with McAfee and tax scams when we return.
Follow Mark Saltzman on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Listen to Check It Out whenever you want.
We are talking with Abhishek Karnik. He's head of threat research at McAfee, a leading online protection company, talking about March and April being prime for cyber criminals to try to dupe you into believing that you're interacting with someone who's going to handle your taxes, or maybe installing, as Abhishek called it, malware, which is short for malicious software. It seems that these scammers are attacking from all sides, whether it's a phone call, a text message, an email, even a social media direct message. Are there any other interesting findings from your tax scams research?
Yes, we've observed that about 48% of the people say that most of these messages are targeted to you over either some sort of social media, text messaging, or phone calls. So about 30% came over phone calls, 27% over text message, and 5% or less over social media. Also, what the scammers are looking for, about 40% were looking for social security numbers. 26% were looking for things like birth date or home addresses or phone numbers or any sort of PII that they could gather, which would then either be used either for the tax scam itself, or maybe in the future, your information could be sold to third parties who could come back and scam you for other reasons.
Scary stuff. All right. So please give us some tips to fighting back against scammers during tax time.
The first thing is that you should look for red flags, right? The scammers are trying to create a sense of urgency or panic, and don't get rushed into making a payment. Don't get scared by somebody telling you that you're about to face arrest. Okay, those are sort of a red flag. If that urgency is there, it's probably a fake.
Right.
The second thing is that if you are solicited, by the IRS, who claims to be the IRS, well, that should be a red flag, because the IRS will never contact you over phone, text, or email. At least that's not how they initiate communication. They typically do it via snail mail. Mm-hmm. So you should receive something in physical mail, right? And again, like if somebody's asking you for PII, be careful if anybody's asking you to make a payment over wire transfer, gift cards. Those are sort of red flags. Now, what can you do essentially to prevent yourself? I would say that ignore any such messaging. Think before you click. If possible, verify the source. Don't just blindly believe who's getting in touch with you. Verify who you're talking to. And in cases where you have the option to call the IRS or call your tax professional, pick up the phone and make the call instead of, receiving a phone call, because you don't know who's calling you.
Right. And don't rely on the number that's in that message. Find a number outside of that text or email that you just received, right? Like to your bank or to the IRS or what have you.
That's right. And that's where some of these scams have become very customized. You could receive a spoofed phone number, which is not essentially an actual phone number, which looks and feels like it's coming from your tax agency or locally. And it might just be a spoof. It might be somebody who's changed the phone number. So those are some of the more plausible scenarios. And again, I think the best thing to do is that you pick up the phone or you go to the IRS website, and that's typically a safer way. Now, I would also say that the IRS, like if you've been a victim of a tax scam, the IRS does help you by providing you some sort of a PIN that you can register. So essentially register on ID.me, which is the IRS website. They do verification. They look at your license, your driver's license or passport, or even get you on a video phone call to validate who you are, and essentially give you a PIN where you can utilize when you're filing your taxes. So the IRS itself is aware of fraud, and they do take steps in building awareness, giving education, but also their website allows you to register if you need to be more cautious with your filing. And then finally, report fraud. So if you do fall victim, or if you do want to read about it, get educated. IRS, go online to their website. Either you can report a fraud, report imposters on ftc.gov. You can report imposters on ftc.gov or identitytheft.gov. I
was going to say, Abhishek, that you're being humble. You didn't even bring up McAfee software, which is very nice to rely more on tips. But that's what I have. I've got McAfee Plus Family.
That's an excellent choice, I would say. Yes, and do use the software of your choice, but McAfee definitely has a lot of good options and features to help you in your online journey. Having some sort of a buddy software on the side, to help you with scam protection, PII, like I mentioned, using AI to fight AI. I mean, you need those tools nowadays to help you in your journey online.
Okay. And then finally, is there a website we can go for more info?
McAfee.com. We have blog pages, and we also publish articles on what we're seeing on the threat landscape where you can learn more, educate yourself. And of course, the IRS as well provides a lot of this information. They have like a dirty dozen list where they talk about, the 12 type of scams to look out for. So I think between having the right software and being educated should make you safer online.
Awesome. All right, McAfee.com. That's MCAFEE.com. Thank you so much for educating us about these tax scams that we need to be on the lookout for. Appreciate your time very much.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you having me.
And speaking of cybersecurity, I wanted to give a shout out to Visa once again for all of their investments in fighting against fraud. Billions of dollars, billion with a B. You can head over to visa.com/security to learn more. That's visa.com/security. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. And I look forward to catching up with you next weekend for another new episode of Tech It Out. Bye-bye for now.